Hello, product people. Welcome to the Product for Product podcast, hosted by Matt Green, data advocate and product manager, and Moshe Mikanovsky, product leader and author. Our goal is to serve the product community by helping you find products that can help make your work in product management easier. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Product for Product podcast.
Welcome back. Moshe and I are wrapping up our series on user testing in today's episode. We would like to thank all of our guests for taking the time to chat about various tools in this space. So let's hop in. How are you, Moshe?
I'm doing good. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing very good myself. Coming into August now, and hopefully the
Yes.
summertime heat here in the South will be wrapping up
Yes,
soon, and looking forward to fall.
absolutely. It's interesting. I was thinking about it that usually, in the summer things are slowing down, but for the podcast, we actually had lots of activity going on.
We did.
We had an episode released every week, and in this series, we actually had 6 episodes in addition to the kickoff. So
Yep.
overall, there will be 8 episodes, I think. And we talked about 4, 6, 8 products, I think. So it was
Yes. Yeah.
quite a lot of stuff there. And also different point of views. We had some new things going on in this podcast, in this series with Kevin Hawkins coming twice,
Right.
talking about 4 products. So that
Oh, the
was
first.
a treasure chest over there of information.
Yep.
And we talked with him about Maze and Userzoom, and also about UsabilityHub and UserTesting.
Yep.
Then we talked with Premika she was from Singapore, I believe, right?
Right.
I
Yep.
think she was our first one from Singapore.
Correct.
It was really international
Yeah.
series, because Kevin was in Barcelona at the time,
Yes.
and I believe now he is somewhere else. I'm not sure, he's traveling all around. So Premika from Singapore about Dovetail, and then Mike from England about Lookback.
Right.
Igor
From
from
Russia.
Russia about user interviews. And then finally, Tracy from Toronto.
From
That
beautiful Canada, right?
beautiful Canada, my hometown. She gave us a bit different perspective of both someone that created user testing and tested them for her products, but also was a tester. So that was very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I really enjoyed that. I think that coming into this series, I didn't really know what to expect, but it kind of came up really nicely at the end with a lot of stuff that we learned. And to me personally, it was really a lot about learning something that I really didn't use before. I was involved in some user testing. I've seen some user testing being done. I talked with people that have done user testing, on those tools.
Yep.
But I didn't use those tools myself. And that's an interesting one. I think we mentioned it in one of the episodes that it's not a traditional tool for product managers.
Right.
But as product managers, it's important for us to know about them.
Yep. I had been involved in user testing, but not using a tool specifically. I had also used a tool that we did not talk about called User Snap. So, but not in the framework of user testing. We use it for more feedback, in-app feedback kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I had dabbled around the user testing space, but not really diving into like panels and participants and the whole experience of it. So I found that testing to be pretty fascinating.
Yeah, and the interesting thing there is that that's why there is, I think, speciality of people that's what they specialize in. Not just using those tools, but how to create those user tests and how to conduct them,
right,
and how to analyze the information they're getting back and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, right.
So similar to the A/B testing experimentation series that we had in the past, this is another one of those specialization in our area of building products. So I really enjoy learning about that.
Yeah, I did too. And I think Tracy's episode was really interesting because she gave us a perspective on both sides. And I think she brought up some good points around, making sure if you're the tester conducting the test, to make sure you're asking the right questions, conducting the test, in the best manner. But also from a panelist perspective, like getting involved and your experience on that end, that was also pretty eye-opening because prior to this, I hadn't really thought about the panelists or the participants.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's pretty interesting. It might be something like down the road somewhere that I might try to like get involved in, because I think it's pretty cool. Like you can get involved with other applications because, hey, you and I like to use tools, right? So, but yeah, so that was pretty cool perspective.
It's an interesting point because as product managers, we always want to have that empathy to our users, but we are so in the product, in the weeds of the product, and we are sometimes, bringing our own ideas that will be part of those designs, that we're very biased about it. So it's very hard for us to take off that hat and not, and not, even though we were trying not to fall in love with our products, but with the problems we are
so close to it, right?
We're so close to it. It's a very hard thing to separate.
Yeah.
So to do what Tracy did by testing other products, so although they were not her products, she had this freedom of criticizing their work and seeing the good things, the bad things, and learning from that on how she should be a better tester in the future.
Yep. Yeah,
so that was a really interesting one. But I also loved part of the reasons I love the discussions with Kevin was because he made a bit of organization in my head. Like,
right.
What are the terms? I was using the wrong terms all the time. So
yeah,
I still probably didn't get them right. But, I was talking about, I always thought it was attended and unattended, but it's really moderated and unmoderated.
Unmoderated.
I think the attended and unattended is actually coming from AI. And for some reason, I use those terms also here.
Yeah.
But the right terms I learned are moderated, where there is someone moderating the test and he's with you, versus unmoderated, where it's automatic. You are there to test it, and there is no one there to help you with that. You have to do whatever you have to do.
Yep.
And some of the products are stronger on one or the other, or both.
Right.
And it was interesting to hear from some of our guests that we're not even sure in some cases which one is which, because maybe it wasn't that strong that they didn't use it in the application, or they had to use a combination of applications integrated with it to perform the full test, right?
Yeah. I think we saw that with like Mike with Lookback, and then Premika with Dovetail. Like Dovetail and Lookback, they didn't seem to offer that, and so so you had to combine. So that was a pretty interesting take.
It does bring an interesting point there, because what I think we learned is that like every other type of products or product themes, different packages or different tools have different focuses coming from different places and might not provide you with a full solution. But also when you approach the people that are using them, the terms that they're using might be the same, but they might have different meanings. Right. In reality, even though it's they're talking in the same manner as other people. Yep. And what I think that I learned is Dovetail is probably a bit more stronger as a repository than with the other aspects of what user testing here are, where tools like user testing or user interviews are more about the panels and the ability to find the people that you need to find to do the tests. Right. So there are definitely more strength and weaknesses in each one of those. I had in mind originally that repositories will be a whole different series. And I think we might do that in the future, because I think that some products are only really focusing on the repository, on doing that.
Yeah, I think Dovetail does that. Like I looked up G2 when I was doing some research into this. Like Dovetail kind of fell into that research repository space. And so that's their jam.
Yeah, so maybe that's where we can expand in the future in a farther series about more tools that are doing that, because I think they do have quite a bit competition there in the market.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So we could have bring them to this series as well, but we don't want to bore everyone with like 10 of
user testing
episodes. User testing episodes or repositories episodes. So we will keep it for the future. There is always new things that we could do, right?
Right.
So we touched a bit about the moderate versus not moderate, and about the repository. The other things that we learned is that there are those panels.
Yep.
So some of them will have like millions of users, but they might be in a very specific areas geographically or background experiences or whatever it is. Some of them bought other companies in order to enlarge their user base, which is one way to expand and to have competitive edge there. We learned also about you can bring your own panel list sometimes, or you can use the platform as a way to organize your panelists, because organizing your panelists is also a hassle. Like I think Igor touched on that a bit about how many times have I speak with my panelists? Did I speak with them too many times that they're already going to be tired with us? Or am I dividing it properly and stuff like that, right?
Using the same people over and over, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that aspect is also an interesting one.
Then you get a lot of bias.
Well, part of it is a bias, but part of it is also, if you have limited number of people you can reach out to, you don't want to
exhaustion
exhaust all your resources, all the time.
Wear out your welcome. Yeah,
exactly. So it's interesting. It's really interesting. And then, conducting the test itself. So some of them will have the capabilities to conduct it over the platform itself, or others you have to use a third party or something else to conduct it. And then to store and analyze the test. That was another interesting one. Storage is like that repository management, but the analysis is really understanding the results. What are you getting from them, to almost make them from qualitative to quantitative in some cases?
That's the area that that I'm a bit murky about still. Like they use the word insights, and Premika mentioned that as well. They had to do some growth opportunity there. Like the companies haven't quite matured in that space of like deliver. They can maybe deliver insights, but like call to actions or like get you to take action on stuff. It seemed like there might be some opportunities to still mature when it comes to like insights and actions.
Yeah, and we had exactly the same discussion when we talked about product analytics. About insights, like what's the next step. But here it's even more, because in product analytics, usually you will just collect the data of users, clicking in different areas of the product, their flows and the path and stuff like that. So it's way more, quantitative anyway. With this one is usually more qualitative. And with qualitative, the way people say things is different. So you need to decipher what they mean by what they say sometimes, if they mean the same thing, if the problem they had is the same problem. So I think the insights there are much harder to come by. And that's where I think the AIs and we have to get into that. But
that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
The AI will starting to play a role there. I don't know if in any of the episodes it was, I don't think it was like a heavy. We always talked about AI these days. I mean, you can't
get away from
that.
Yep.
But how much did our guests really are impressed with what the AI can give them? Did you get the sense that any of those products is already kind of over that hump?
Not necessarily over it. I got the sense that they were still trying to implement it within the application.
Yeah, I've seen a startup that is doing that, or they're claiming that they're doing that. But it will be interesting actually to bring them in when we do our next startup series to actually see that, because that will be an interesting one. Imagine you have this repository, or even multiple repositories. If it's a very big company, sometimes you will have big organizations that will have multiple repositories, not just one. So they might use in different departments of different products or different divisions, different platforms for user testing. And then they will kind of bring all of those insights into one AI engine that will give them insights. This will be awesome.
That'd be great. Yeah, and to be able to understand text, and insights are very hard to come by when it comes to like being able to decipher text.
Yeah, so, the AI will be able to do it over time, I believe. But if
continuously train on it.
Yeah, if you would have take a person that knows what they're doing and look into that, I'm sure they can, but it's a lot of work. Depends how much insights you have. How many?
And everybody frames things differently, like says things differently. So when you interview with someone, they might phrase it differently. So it'll take time, but I think if you train the AI to pick up these speech patterns on large, sets of data and put them into a model and process that, I think in time that just gets stronger to the point of where, well, I've seen this pattern before and I understand it. And it's going to spit out some good insights from that.
I'm sure companies like, UserTesting, User Maze, I mean, they have very big user base and a lot of testing going on. So I'm sure they have the data.
Oh, I'm sure.
So I wonder what they're doing with that and when you will actually see that aha moment of really helping with that.
Put that into a large language model. And
exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. That's a great point. They're probably actively working on it if they don't already have something. So that might be something good to follow up on, in time for us to circle back to.
Yeah.
On not just these products, but like other products.
Now, in general, how many, and maybe that's a question for us to explore, how many companies or what's a percentage of companies that are building products and have some type of user interfaces to them, which is most of the products, but are actually using tools like user testing, right? Right. That's a really interesting one to explore. I mean, I've seen great products giving me tests to do, but they were not really using any of those platforms. And it was quite recent. They were using a prototype that I was able to go through like on Figma, and then a form that I had to fill with my comments on it. Right. And that's a very kind of like crude way to do that. But I wonder, in the level of spending of an organization, how important or what priority companies put into actually spending on this type of applications.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I'm thinking as well as how much time do companies have when it comes to producing product? I'm curious where that fits within the stream of work. If you're moving really quickly, do you have time for like, hey, let's go do this user testing thing? And how long does that last for?
Right. So it's a very good question because it also depends on the size of the thing that you're building. So if you're just building a small change and you want to see, okay, it's almost like an A/B testing and test things like, is this better than that design or not?
Right.
Then it's one thing and it might be easy to do. Or on the other end is you're developing something very big that has a lot of moving parts in it, and testing one thing might not test the rest, right?
Right.
So I've been in both situations. It's much easier with the first one because it's very specific, and you can define it much smaller than anything else. But it's important to do the other one even much more because it might make or break the product. The thing is that you cannot do it on every little thing, so you do it on the important things, and then you release the product and you get feedback, and then you start experimenting on smaller parts of it. So there's different approaches that you can do with that. I'm sure that UX researchers will be able to give us a much better answer to that. That question.
But I guess that's when you have a dedicated specialist that handles that stuff.
That's much easier. Absolutely. That's much easier. Even when I had access to that in the past with one of my designers, we used user testing. We had a very limited number of tests that we were able to do. So it was based on credits. So we kind of kept it very protective about those credits. Only when we really thought we did it, You know what I mean? Which is also not a good thing because it means there is not enough budget for you to do that.
Really got my interest piqued on terms of like how these can be useful to product managers and how I might be able to get in the game at some point. And just hearing Tracy talk about her experience, I might reach out and see if I can be a part of that sometime. I think it'd be pretty cool.
I don't think it costs anything to the testers.
I don't think so.
On the contrary, if you get to
just
be
time,
part
right?
of them, you can make a bit
you
money.
Get paid. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
who knows? Maybe they have also. I don't remember asking her if there is an age limit, but maybe they have tests for games or websites for kids. So maybe your kid can do it too. I know when my daughter did it, she was not a minor anymore, so she was able to register. She was a student in university. She also enjoyed doing it, but she also told me that most of them are kind of like pass. Yeah. And that was the part that she didn't really like. And eventually she just stopped doing it. And maybe that's what happens with a lot of people. Because of all of those passes, they're like, oh, what's the point?
What's the point? And even Tracy mentioned some of the technical challenges that she had with it, that you might get frustrated with it and say like, never mind. Like, I don't want to be part of it. So
I actually once was looking for research, not on user testing, but more for surveys, to answer specific questions on specific areas. So it was more that user interviews type of thing, but with the specific questions. And I found a guy that had access to lists, and he basically sells some. It was all kosher, I believe. He collected them throughout the years, and he has licenses himself to some paid lists. So he basically able to do those tests for me. So we built together the test, and then he was the one finding the people for me. So back then, from that experience, I also learned about how hard or easy it is to find people, but also how well you have to define your qualification questions, that the right people will be getting through to your test, and not just everyone, because you're paying for every person. So
that's true.
Nice. So so that was a really like every other series we did in the past. I don't think we had an uncool series before.
No, I don't think so. But this was and this was one that, like we said, product managers didn't. We're not always exposed to it like we were with roadmaps and stuff. So this was cool.
Exactly, and I think that it's one of those things that we set up to do when we started the podcast 2.5 years ago. But I think even more. We're getting close to our 100th episode.
We're closing in quick.
Very exciting. So we our goal was to really learn what are the products available out there for product people, and I definitely feel that we learned a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we always said, we're just scratching the surface. It comes down.
We're just scratching the surface. Yes.
I mean, there's other ones out there. There's plenty more that we can cover.
Yes.
And so, but I think
maybe too many.
There might be. There might be. That's a good point. But that was the whole point. That was the whole point of all this. I mean, it's all these spaces are very confusing because there's so many applications, and you're not quite sure what to use. And that's always the problem. I think we're trying to help solve. And hopefully, I think this series, if you're looking for user testing tools, I think a series like this with the ones we hit on, I think we provided some good information, and really appreciate the guests being part of it.
Yeah. So it's a shout out to our guests that came over to tell us everything about what they know about this product. Kevin, Premika, Mike,
Igor,
Tracy. Did I miss anyone? Or that's
it. Yep.
Okay. That's perfect.
Yep. Kevin twice.
Yes, Kevin
Two
twice.
Kevins.
Two Kevins. Yes.
Yeah.
And your lost family, Mike Green, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, a long lost relative in England. So, yep.
Who knows? And also the fact that I always love to have people from all over the world, because it just shows how it's not just used in one area of the world, but it's used everywhere. So that's also really, really cool to see.
Yeah, and this one definitely did it. I think we covered a few different continents.
At least 3. Yes.
Yeah, that's good. That might be a milestone for us.
At least 3, yes. And one island.
And one island, right? Yeah, that's not Europe.
Awesome. So I'm looking forward to what the future is going to bring us and what else we're going to learn.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. Thank you, Moshe. Thank you to all the guests. And we'll talk to you next time. Take care.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you to all the listeners. We really appreciate the feedback and support. Please leave us a review to help others find the show on Apple or Spotify or anywhere else you're listening to the show.